Have you ever thought that one day everything you worked for, your lifetime earnings, your sacrifices, your hard work could all disappear, and in return, all you're left with is silence? My name is Michael Carter, and today I am 81 years old. I spent my entire life making money, but one day I realized I never truly built a life. I was the man people used to call successful. I had a business, I had money, I had respect, and most of all, I had people around me. But today, my phone doesn't ring for days. No one knocks on my door anymore. Because I made a very big mistake. I didn't give people love. I gave them convenience. I didn't build relationships. I built dependencies. For years, I was a family ATM for my children, my relatives, my friends. And I believed that this was my worth. But one day, when I finally said no, for the first time in my life, I discovered what I was truly worth. And that worth was zero. So if today, you are sacrificing your life, your income, your peace, just to keep others happy, then maybe this story is for you. I wasn't always like this. There was a time when Michael Carter was just an ordinary boy with no money, no comfort, only one dream to change his life. I grew up in a small apartment in Boston, where even the heater would often fail during the harsh winters. My father worked in a factory, and my mother cleaned houses. We didn't just see poverty, we lived it. I still remember, when I was 14 years old, I saw my mother quietly crying at night because she couldn't pay the bills. That night, I made a promise to myself. I will never be poor when I grow up, and I will never let my family live like this again. That promise became the greatest strength of my life, and also my greatest weakness. I worked 2 jobs while attending college, studying during the day, working at night. Less sleep, bigger dreams. Slowly, I started my first small construction business. In the beginning, everything was stress, uncertainty, but I refused to give up. After years of hard work, my business finally took off. First a small contract, then a bigger project, then my own team, my own company, my own identity. And then the time came when I finally had money. It was everything I had ever dreamed of as a child. But at that very moment, a silent change began in my life. One I didn't even notice. When I had nothing, people were with me. But when I had everything, people started coming to me at first. It felt good. My circle was growing. Relationships seemed stronger. My family felt closer. Everyone was proud of me, and I wanted to do something for everyone. The first time a friend asked me for money, I gave it without hesitation. I thought, this is what friendship is. Then a relative asked for help. Then another dot. And every time, I told myself, if I have it, I should give it. Slowly, this became a pattern. People came to me with their problems, and I helped them without even thinking. I never learned how to say no, because deep inside, I had a fear that if I refused, people might walk away from me. I did the same for my children. I gave them everything I never had. Expensive schools, new cars, a life of luxury. I thought I was giving them a better life. But in reality, I was giving them an easier life. And an easy life rarely builds strong people. In my house, an unspoken rule was formed. If there's a problem, Michael will fix it. I never realized that I wasn't helping them. I was increasing their dependency on me. Every time I gave someone money, I felt a strange kind of satisfaction inside. As if I mattered. As if I had value. But that value wasn't real. It was an illusion. I was using the money I earned through years of hard work to buy people's happiness. And I thought that was love. Time kept passing. My business kept growing. My income kept increasing. And along with it, my responsibilities kept growing too. But there was one thing I failed to see. That my life was slowly slipping out of my control. I was making money, but I was losing myself. And I didn't realize it until it was far too late. Time is a strange thing. It changes you slowly, So slowly that you don't even realize when you became the person you never wanted to be. Michael Carter, the boy who once struggled with poverty, was now living a life where money was no longer a problem. It had become a weapon and I had become its prisoner. At first, everything felt normal. But then a time came when I realized that people were not coming to me to share happiness. They were coming to me with problems. Every call, every meeting had the same purpose. Michael, I need a little financial help. And I, as always, would say yes. I remember one night sitting alone in my office. There were files in front of me, contracts, and a list of people I had given money to over the past year. That list was long. So long that even I was surprised. But one thing was common in that list. Not a single person had returned the money. Strangely, I didn't feel hurt about it, because I had never really expected it back. I only wanted one thing. I wanted people to stay with me. I had connected my value with money. I believed, as long as I kept giving, people would stay. And maybe that was my biggest mistake. With time, my generosity turned into expectation. People no longer said thank you. They only made demands. My close friend Jason Reed, who had been with me since the beginning, came to me one day. He said he had suffered a major business loss and needed my help. Without asking a single question, I gave him a large amount of money. A few months later, I found out he hadn't used that money to recover losses, but to buy a brand new luxury car. I never confronted him, because I didn't want to hear the truth. I kept convincing myself that everything was fine, that people appreciated me, that I mattered to them. But the reality was something else. My children, Ethan Carter and Sophia Carter, for whom I had done everything, slowly adopted the same mindset. They knew that if there was a problem, Dad'll handle it. I never let them struggle. And because of that, they never learned how to stand on their own. One day Ethan came to me. He said his business had failed and he needed another chance. I gave him money again, then a third time, then a fourth time. And every time he kept failing, because he never learned how to rise after falling. I wasn't helping him. I was strengthening his weakness. Sophia was no different. She had become addicted to a luxury lifestyle. And for her, money was just a tool, always available. I never saw what I was turning them into, because I was only focused on what I was giving them. Time kept passing, and my life got stuck in a loop where I only gave, and people only took. But deep inside, something was breaking. I was exhausted, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. One day, I was sitting in my large living room, surrounded by everything I had worked for: expensive furniture, tall walls, beautiful lights. But that day, it all felt empty as I had become inside. Then suddenly, my phone rang again. Another request, another problem. And for the first time, I stopped before answering. I asked myself, if I don't give this money today, will these people still stay with me? And that question shook me from within, because I already knew the answer. No, I had built my entire life into a system where my value was tied only to my wallet. I was no longer a human being. I had become a resource, and resources are used, not appreciated at that moment. I remembered an old line I had once read. People don't value what you give them. Easily they value what they have to earn. And I had made everything in my life too easy for myself and for others. But easy paths often lead to wrong destinations. That day, I felt a conflict inside me for the first time. On one side was Michael, the man who always gave, and on the other was a tired human being who just wanted peace. For the first time in my life, I began to think that maybe the problem was not money. The problem was boundaries. I had never set limits. And where there are no limits, people never learn to stop. But this realization wasn't easy, because it came with fear. If I start saying no, what will happen? Will my children leave me? Will my friends abandon me? Will I end up alone? These questions kept echoing in my mind, and I couldn't sleep for many nights. I had reached a point where I had to make a decision that would define the rest of my life. Either I stayed the same, a family ATM that everyone uses, or I take myself back, even if it means losing everything. And the truth is, sometimes, to find yourself, you have to lose others. That was the moment where my life stood at a turning point, and I knew that my next step would change everything. I had made many big decisions in my life, decisions about business, money, and people, but the decision I was about to make that day felt heavier than anything before, because this time it was not about money. It was about my own self-worth. Couldn't sleep for nights. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw faces. My children, my friends, my relatives, and all those memories where I had given them everything without even thinking. But this time, something else appeared to my own face. Tired, empty, and somewhere deep inside, broken. I asked myself a question. Michael, if you stop giving everything today, what will you have left? And this time, I didn't run away from the answer. Nothing. That truth was painful, but it was the moment I finally accepted reality. I had spent my entire life trying to make others happy, and in that process, I had left myself behind. I gave money. I gave time, i.e. gave support, but I never stopped to ask whether those people truly deserved it or not. In the name of love, I broke my own boundaries. And when boundaries break, respect disappears with them. That day, I made a decision that started a war inside me. I decided I would start saying no. Such a simple word. No. But for me, it was the hardest word in the world. A few days later, what I feared most happened. My son Ethan came to me, but this time, his confidence was lower, and his expectation was higher. He knew I would help him like always, but this time, I was different. I listened to him silently, and then for the first time in my life, I gave him an answer I had never given anyone before. No, the word came out of my mouth, but I could feel its echo inside my heart. For a moment, time stopped. Ethan's face showed surprise, then anger, and then something I had always feared, distance. He stood up without saying a word and walked away. That day, something inside me broke, and something else finally healed. I knew it wouldn't be easy, and it wouldn't end quickly. In the following weeks, everything began to change. My phone started ringing less, messages became fewer, and the people who used to come to me every other day suddenly became busy. My friend Jason, who once never made a decision without me, no longer had time for me. One day, I called him myself, just to talk, but his voice didn't carry the warmth it once had. And in that moment, I understood something deeply painful. We were never really friends. We were a transaction. And when the transaction ended, the relationship ended too. That realization hurt, but it also freed me. For the first time in my life, I felt silence. The silence that once scared me was now comforting me. I was alone in my house, but for the first time, I was with myself. I looked into the mirror, and after a long time, I saw the person I once knew, Michael Carter, the man who once had dreams, who once wanted to live for himself. Slowly, I started rebuilding my life. I organized my finances, controlled my expenses, and most importantly, I set my boundaries. I learned that there is a thin line between generosity and self-respect, and if you cross it, you stop being a giver and become someone who is used. It took me a lifetime to understand this, but the real change came the day I ignored another call. It was from my daughter Sophia. Before, I would always answer immediately, but this time, I stopped myself. I already knew why she was calling. I let the phone ring, and for the first time, I didn't let guilt control me, because I finally understood. Every no is not for others. It is a yes for yourself. This decision made me lonely, but it also set me free. For the first time in my life, I realized I was not dependent on anyone, not on approval, not on acceptance. I am enough for myself. And that was the moment when I finally discovered my true value. I was not a money machine. I was a human being whose worth is not defined by his wallet, but by his principles. Today, when I look back, I feel regret for how much of my life I spent trying to please others. But at the same time, I feel proud that I found myself before completely losing who I was. And maybe that is the greatest victory of life. Today, I am 81 years old. The same Michael Carter who spent his entire life living for others and then one day finally learned how to live for himself. The walls of my house are still the same. The furniture is still the same. The city is still the same. But one thing has changed. I have changed. Earlier, this house was full of noise, people coming and going, phone calls, requests, demands, and today, there is silence here. But this is not the kind of silence that breaks a person. This is the kind of silence that puts a person back together. I am still alone, but I am no longer lonely. Because now, I am with myself. I have lost many things in my life. People, relationships, connections, but I have gained something far more valuable than all of them. My self-respect. I have learned that the most dangerous thing in life is not poverty. It is the moment when you forget your own value. When you connect your worth to other people's needs, you slowly lose your own identity. I have also learned that not every help is truly help. Sometimes, by giving too much, you are not making someone's life easier. You are making them weaker. And the biggest truth of all is that people respect you only as much as you respect yourself. If you keep saying yes every time, the world will start treating you as an option, not a priority. In the final phase of my life, I understood that boundaries are not selfish. They are a form of self-respect. You can love people. You can care for them. But that does not mean you must sacrifice your own life for them. Because the truth is, those who get used to only receiving from you are not defined by your giving. They are revealed when you stop. If someone asks me today what my biggest mistake in life was, I would say I gave people everything that they should have earned themselves. And my biggest success, I finally learned how to say no. So if you are listening to this story and you feel that you have become someone's family ATM, then stop, think, and ask yourself, do people love you? Or do they just love your convenience? Because the day you stop giving, that is the day you will see the truth. And maybe that truth will hurt, but it will also set you free. Remember, your value is not measured by how much you give, but by when you finally stand up for yourself. And now I ask you, if you say no today, who will still remain in your life?